The courtroom was filled with tension the moment the words "safe deposit box" were spoken. Everyone leaned forward, sensing that what lay inside wasn't just an object, but a story that could change the direction of the entire case. For years, it had remained locked, untouched, holding secrets only its owner knew. But now, it was about to be opened before the eyes of a jury, a judge, and the world watching closely. The family involved in this dispute never imagined that a small metal box in the corner of a bank vault would become the center of their battle. They believed they were fighting over inheritance, property, and rights. Yet the safe deposit box whispered of deeper truths, something hidden away, not just to protect, but perhaps to conceal. And when lawyers revealed that its contents could either vindicate or incriminate, silence swept across the courtroom. The mystery of a locked container always sparks the imagination. What could be inside? Old letters? Legal papers? Something darker? More valuable? Or more dangerous? The jurors looked uneasy, each knowing that soon their role would be to decide the weight of what was uncovered. The anticipation grew heavier with every passing minute. Even the judge adjusted his glasses and leaned forward, aware that this was not an ordinary hearing. But before the box could be opened, testimonies began. Witnesses were called to explain why it had been kept secret for so long. Some swore it contained proof of fraud. Others hinted it held love letters that could ruin reputations. The family members sat rigid, each one hiding nervous glances, as if they feared being exposed by the contents of a simple, locked box. This is the kind of moment that shows us how fragile truth can be, how the past always finds a way to surface, no matter how tightly we try to lock it away. And as the first key was brought into the courtroom, hearts pounded. The lid had not yet been lifted, but already lives were on the verge of being altered forever. Stories like these remind us how easily hidden secrets can shift everything we thought we knew. What's inside a box may be paper, or it may be proof that changes the fate of an entire family. That's why, here on our channel, we bring you real stories that carry lessons about truth, justice, and the cost of keeping secrets. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We share daily videos filled with stories that not only capture your attention, but also make you think about life in powerful ways. And now, with the courtroom holding its breath, the mysterious safe deposit box was finally about to be opened. What came out would shock everyone and leave the jury with an impossible decision. The clerk stepped forward, carrying the small brass key with hands that trembled slightly under the weight of expectation. The courtroom had fallen into an almost eerie silence, as though everyone collectively stopped breathing. With a click that echoed louder than anyone expected, the lock turned, and the lid of the safe deposit box creaked open. Gasps rippled across the room as the contents were revealed. Inside were envelopes, neatly tied together with a faded ribbon, and beneath them, a small stack of documents marked with official seals. At first glance, it looked harmless. Papers, letters, nothing unusual. But the prosecuting attorney's eyes lit up instantly. He carefully lifted the stack and handed it to the bailiff, who passed it on for inspection. The first envelope was opened. Inside were letters written decades ago, personal, intimate, and filled with words that carried implications no one in the family was prepared to face. They weren't love letters of affection, but confessions, secrets written in ink that pointed to hidden dealings, questionable transactions, and names that tied directly to the dispute at hand. Suddenly, the courtroom realized this wasn't just about money or property. It was about betrayal. As each letter was read aloud, Family members shifted uncomfortably. One covered her face, another shook his head violently, whispering under his breath. The tension grew heavier with every word. These weren't just scraps of paper, they were weapons, evidence that could dismantle years of carefully built reputations. And then came the documents, contracts, bank transfers, signatures, clear trails of money, moved quietly and deceptively. It was all there, preserved in the safety of a locked box, waiting to resurface when the time was right. The defense attorney tried to object, but the judge overruled. The jury had to see this. Some jurors exchanged uneasy glances. Their job wasn't just to listen anymore, it was to interpret. And what they saw was the unraveling of a family legacy, torn apart not by outside forces, but by secrets carefully hidden within metal walls. The courtroom buzzed with whispers, but the judge quickly struck the gavel, demanding silence. What mattered now wasn't speculation, it was truth. And truth had just stepped out of the shadows, carried in yellowed envelopes and brittle sheets of paper. Moments like these are powerful reminders of how the past, no matter how deeply buried, always resurfaces. You can lock away objects, but you cannot lock away truth. It will always find its way out. As the box continued to be emptied, the tension climbed higher. The final items remained at the bottom, still untouched. What else lay inside? What else could possibly deepen the storm already raging in this courtroom? The jury leaned in, bracing themselves. The family sat frozen, dreading what more could be exposed. And as the last envelopes, the bailiff laid the final envelopes gently on the table, and even before they were opened, everyone in the courtroom could feel the weight of them. These weren't just letters. They looked thicker, heavier, almost deliberate, as though whoever placed them inside the box wanted them to be found one day, but only at the perfect moment. The prosecuting attorney carefully opened the first one, unfolding the papers with deliberate slowness. As his eyes scanned the words, his expression hardened. He turned to the jury, his voice calm but cutting. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you are about to hear changes everything." He began to read. The words spoke of a deal, an under-the-table agreement between two family members, one of whom had always claimed innocence. Money had been exchanged for silence, loyalty traded for betrayal. It wasn't rumor, it wasn't suspicion. It was documented, signed, and witnessed. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, whispers, even a few cries filled the air. One juror put a hand to her mouth, clearly shaken. A man from the family rose to his feet, furious, shouting, "That's a lie!" The judge's gavel thundered against the bench, demanding order. But order was fragile now, slipping away like sand through fingers. The defense attorney scrambled to object, insisting the letters were forged, that the documents couldn't be trusted. But the prosecutor was ready. He pulled out expert verification reports, signed by handwriting analysts and forensic specialists. The evidence was airtight. The family's faces told a story words couldn't. Shame, anger, fear. They sat etched into every expression. The matriarch of the family, usually composed and dignified, looked as though she might collapse under the weight of the truth now laid bare. Then the second envelope was opened. This one contained photographs, grainy, black and white, but powerful. Images of meetings in secret, of money changing hands, of signatures made under dim lights in quiet rooms. The photos matched the words of the letters. Together, they formed a chain of proof that was impossible to deny. The jury leaned forward, their pens scratching notes furiously. Their eyes weren't just listening, they were absorbing every detail. And with each revelation, the story grew darker, the truth sharper. What began as a battle over inheritance had now become an exposé of hidden alliances and deceit, stretching back decades. By now, even the reporters in the gallery looked stunned. They had come expecting drama, but this was something else entirely. This was history unraveling itself in real time. Every flash of a camera, every scribble of a pen was recording not just a trial, but a scandal that would live on long after the verdict. The safe deposit box had already destroyed reputations, but the prosecutor hinted there was one final piece left to reveal. Something so decisive it would silence every argument, erase every doubt, and force the truth into the open. The family braced themselves. The jury waited, wide-eyed. The box had already turned the courtroom upside down, but the last secret, still unopened, the final envelope was placed on the table, and silence blanketed the courtroom. No one breathed too loudly. No one dared to shift in their seat. Every pair of eyes followed the prosecutor's hands as he slowly opened it. Inside was a single document, but its simplicity made it even more chilling. It wasn't a letter. It wasn't a photograph. It was a will. Not the will everyone had argued over for months, but a newer one, dated just weeks before the patriarch's passing. The prosecutor held it high for the judge and jury to see. "This," he said firmly, "is the true will." The courtroom gasped in unison. The ink was bold, the signature undeniable. Witnesses had verified it, notarized, and sealed properly. And its contents were shocking. Instead of splitting the estate between the bickering heirs, the will redirected everything, every property, every account, every asset, into a trust managed by someone outside the family entirely. A long-time friend, a quiet figure who had remained in the background during the trial, was suddenly at the center of it all. The heirs shouted in outrage. One slammed a fist against the table, another burst into tears. Lawyers scrambled, arguing over legality, over timing, over technicalities. But the judge's stern voice cut through the chaos. "Order. This document is valid. The evidence is clear." The jury's faces told the rest of the story. Shock, disbelief, and then a steady resolve. They knew their verdict had shifted. What was once a messy battle of accusations was now grounded in undeniable truth. The matriarch, who had carried herself with such poise at the start of the trial, sat slumped, defeated. Decades of influence and control shattered in a single afternoon. Her children, who had fought bitterly against one another, were left stunned, realizing they had been pawns in a game they never truly understood. The prosecutor closed his case with a quiet, powerful statement. Secrets may be hidden for years, even decades, but truth always finds its way to the surface. And when it does, no lie, no deception, no scheme can stand against it. The gavel struck. The trial was over, but the echoes of the revelations would live far beyond those courtroom walls. Families would never be the same. Reputations lay in ruins, and one safe deposit box had rewritten history. As the cameras flashed and the jurors filed out, you couldn't help but wonder how many other secrets, tucked away in dusty boxes and forgotten vaults, still wait to change the course of lives forever. If this story captivated you, remember, there are lessons hidden in every tale of betrayal and truth. Always seek honesty, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, because truth is the only foundation strong enough to stand. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for daily videos like this, where real stories carry powerful messages. Until next time, stay curious, stay aware, and never underestimate the power of the truth.